What's going on, boys, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the Fury Warrior on the Shadowlands PTR. We're going to be going over the changes to the class as a whole, changes to Fury specifically, and all of the talent changes that are coming with the Shadowlands Pre-patch. Let's get into it. Just as a reminder, I do stream every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday on Twitch. Link to that will be in the description below. Also, if you'd like to see any more videos like this, please don't forget to hit subscribe and also like this video. So going over the general overview of Fury Warrior, just the class changes to Warrior as a whole. Hamstring is back. This maims the enemy for some damage and reduces their movement speed by 50% for 15 seconds. This is baseline for all specs. It used to just be arms that had this. We also have Ignore Pain. It's 80 rage, instant with a 12-second cooldown. It ignores 50% of the damage taken up to 277,000. Or I'm sorry, 2,777. Reading is hard. Intervene is back also. Rush at a high speed towards an ally, intercepting all melee and ranged attacks against them for 6 seconds while they remain within 10 yards. It's on a 30-second cooldown. This will be useful in PvP and also useful in a Mythic Plus dungeon. Shattering Throw is back baseline. It's on a 3-minute cooldown. It removes all magical immunities like Bubble or Ice Block, and also deals up to 500% increased damage to absorb shields. I'm not sure how relevant this is going to be in Shadowlands content, but if there's any mob with a shield, like specifically what I can think of off the top of my head is the mobs in Underrot. If you can't purge the shield that's on those skeleton mobs, this would be a good way to get that down pretty quickly. Shield Block is here, but it requires a shield. So does Shield Slam. I'm not really sure why they would bring these in and make them require a shield. They're not super useful. You could maybe macro these together with have a shield in your bags or something, have a weapon swap macro, and then you have a shield. I think this is maybe more of a flavor thing. I'm not sure how useful this will be, but we'll see. Also, Slam is back, but only Arms uses it. There's no reason to spend 20 rage on Slam as Fury. And Spell Reflection is back. So this is good. This is something Fury and Arms Warriors have missed quite a bit in PvE. Raise your weapon, reflecting all spells cast on you, and reduces magical damage taken by 20%. This lasts 5 seconds or until a spell is reflected. This will be good for there's AoE fight going on in a raid, or there's a big scary cast happening from a mob in Mythic Plus, or a single target ability from a raid boss. You can reflect it back at them. This increases your damage and also prevents you from taking damage, which is good. Also, we get Challenging Shout at level 54. This taunts all enemies within 10 yards to attack you for 6 seconds on a 4-minute cooldown. Now, maybe this will be useful in combination with like switching to a shield, putting up Shield Block, hitting Challenging Shout. You can save your tank a little bit. Maybe on necrotic weeks, this might be a good idea. But we'll see how useful that is long term. I'm not sure how much damage DPS warriors can take even with something like Shield Block up. And Rallying Cry rank 2. This grants an additional 5% temporary maximum health when you use Rallying Cry. And then going into the Fury changes, not too much has changed. Bloodthirst heals for a little bit less. And the big one is Enrage now only increases your haste by 15%, down from 25. So losing that 10% haste is pretty impactful, I would say. But I think this is probably to counteract the complete lack of need for haste for Fury Warriors early on. I mean, once you get a higher range uptime, it's hard to want haste on your gear, so maybe this is what Blizzard's trying to do with this. Also, we get Single-Minded Fury back, so a lot of DPS Warriors really missed having one-handers instead of the two-hander playstyle. I personally am a fan of Titan's Grip more. I think it looks more badass, but so Recklessness rank 2, its duration is increased by 2 seconds, so that'll take it from a 10-second duration to a 12-second duration. That's nice. Also, it's good to point out, Recklessness is off the GCD, finally. We've only been complaining about it for an entire expansion. Thanks, Blizz, for finally listening, I guess. And Execute rank 4. This increases its damage by 15%. Execute already hits... It feels like it hits a lot harder than it does in BFA, especially for Fury. I know Arms, it still hits like a truck, but for Fury, it definitely seems like it's a lot more impactful to use, and it isn't just another rage generator. So getting into the talents now, a lot of talents have changed for Fury Warrior, and so I just kind of want to go over them one by one and kind of give you a general idea of which talents have changed and sort of my thoughts on them and how it feels to play with them. So War Machine is here, that hasn't changed. Sudden Death has moved up from the 3rd row to the 1st row, and it's unchanged. Your attacks have a chance to reset the cooldown of Execute and make it usable on any target regardless of their health. This might be a little bit more useful on this row depending on the fight. We have Fresh Meat. Now this has changed. Bloodthirst always enrages you the first time you strike a target now, and it has a 15% increased chance to trigger Enrage. So with this talent, Bloodthirst becomes a 45% chance to trigger Enrage, which is really awesome. This really increases your Enrage uptime, especially at lower gear levels. And I think this will be a great talent for Mythic Plus and a great talent for ad fights. If you're constantly switching targets, you're going to be constantly getting Enrage. The level 25 row hasn't changed too much. Impending Victory, however, did receive a buff. It now heals you for 30% of your maximum health, up from 20. I think Impending Victory was kind of slept on in general in BFA. A 20% heal on a 30-second cooldown that resets when you get a killing blow is awesome. This is really great in Mythic Plus. This is great in raiding. This is an extra health stone on a 30-second cooldown. This is going to be very impactful, I think. And I think a lot of warriors take Double Time or Stormbolt just as sort of defaults. But if you already have a stun in your Mythic Plus group, or if you're on a raid boss, how often are you charging multiple times within its cooldown? I would say very rarely. I think Impending Victory is going to see a lot more play here. Level 30 row, Massacre has changed. Execute is now usable on targets below 35% health, and its cooldown is reduced by 1.5 seconds. So for those of you who don't know, Execute for Fury Warriors does have a cooldown, and the reason why Massacre wasn't taken pretty much at all in BFA is because, well, it has a cooldown, so this wasn't as impactful. But now we can have it on a much shorter cooldown. This means with this talent, Execute is on a 3.6 cooldown, 3.6 second cooldown for me before I'm enraged or anything. So you're going to be using Execute quite a bit. And like I said, it hits, I think, significantly harder than it did in BFA. Frenzy is here. This is a new talent. This is replacing, I think it was Furious Slash. And Rampage now increases your haste by 3% for 12 seconds, stacking up to 3 times. This effect is reset if you Rampage a different primary target. Now, I think this is much better than Furious Slash. Furious Slash didn't seem fun to press at all for me. And I think just having it built into Rampage, especially for a single target encounter, this is an extra 9% haste, which sort of makes up for the loss of haste that we have from the Enrage nerf. So that might see some play. And then we have Onslaught. This is a new talent also. It's on a 9.5 second cooldown. It's pretty hard. It hits about twice as hard as a Raging Blow and generates 15 rage, but it requires Enrage. So I think this is a fun ability to press and have because it lets you fill GCDs with something other than Whirlwind. So if you come in here, you're enraged, and then you get this Onslaught here, and that's a pretty decent chunk of rage. And it also hits fairly hard. I mean, it hit for 8.6k there. This is a lower level dummy, so things are hitting a little harder for me. But I think just having this extra button that you can sort of min-max every time you're enraged or every other time you're enraged, you get to press this on cooldown and one, get an extra boost of damage, but also get an extra boost of rage. It helps smooth out the rage or fury, and you're not spending so much time just spamming Whirlwind, feeling like you're doing nothing. The level 35 row is unchanged. Furious Charge, Bounding Stride, and Warpaint are all exactly the same as they were in BFA. The level 40 row has changed, however, significantly. See this here. It generates 2 more rage when you use Bloodthirst, or 4 more rage when it critically strikes your primary target. So this makes Bloodthirst generate 10 rage at a baseline, or 12 rage when it crits. So I think that this is sort of like the replacement for the Azurite trait that we're going to be losing moving into Shadowlands. It's the Gushing Wounds or Gushing Blood or something like that. When your Bloodthirst crit, it put this dot on the target, it generated extra rage. I like it. I mean, it's nice to have the extra rage from one of your baseline abilities, especially at a lower haste level. Frothing Berserker is back, but it has changed. Rampage now has a 25% chance to immediately refund 40 rage. So we probably won't get a proc because that's typically how it works when you're filming a video. When you Rampage, there it is. That second one right there. Again, these are all things to seemingly like smooth out the rage usage of Fury and let you get more rampages overall. I don't know if 20% chance is enough. I think I'd maybe like to see this be something closer to like RPPM or something like that, because you're going to have some peaks and troughs here. You're going to have some back-to-back ones, and then you're not going to see a proc for multiple minutes, but overall, it still feels good to play with. And then Cruelty. So while enraged, Raging Blow deals 20% more damage and has a 30% chance to instantly reset its own cooldown. So if I'm coming over here, I'm enraged, and it like you want to sort of you want to only use Raging Blow during enrage. It seems like it sort of incentivizes that. So I'm here, I'm enraged, I use Raging Blow, and target dummy disappears, so there, good job, Bliss. You're doing a great job. So we get some resets there, a bunch of resets actually. So it sort of incentivizes this like Raging Blow heavy playstyle, and combined with another talent down the row, I think this might be a build also. The level 45 row, Meat Cleaver has changed. Whirlwind deals 30% more damage and now affects your next 4 single target melee attacks instead of your next 2. So I think this will like smooth out things for Mythic Plus. It's nice to basically be using all of your single target abilities and having them just cleave passively versus having to Whirlwinds every other ability. And then Dragon's Roar has changed. So the slow aspect of Dragon's Roar has been removed. It's now on a 30-second cooldown, down from 35 seconds. And when it critically strikes, it hits for 3 times normal damage. So for those of you who play Frost DK, Frost Scythe does something similar, except it's 4 times more damage. So since it's on a 30-second cooldown, every Recklessness, you can Dragon's Roar. And since Recklessness is off the GCD, you can macro Dragon's Roar into Recklessness. So I'm just going to show you here, combined with the Reckless Abandon talent. So these 2 buttons are actually going to change. So, and we'll get to that in a second. Charge in, you build up some rage, because I want to be enraged for this. Okay, so I'm enraged, Dragon's Roar, and you can see Dragon's Roar hit for 40k there, 50k, 40k. So that's pretty impactful, I would say, especially if you're in a Mythic Plus dungeon. Dragon's Roar is one of the few abilities left for Warrior that is not AoE capped, so this will hit every single target. And if you use it in conjunction with Recklessness, when it crits, and Fury Warrior may or may not be stacking crit in Shadowlands also, this thing's gonna hit like a freight train on a 30-second cooldown. Like, this is gonna be a big explosion of damage. This is awesome. It makes Dragon's Roar feel a lot better. I think in BFA it was just kind of a fire and forget sort of thing, but now it does some pretty impactful damage, especially when it's critting, and that's always fun to see those big numbers. Bladestorm's here, it's exactly the same, and level 50 row. So Anger Management is here, that's also unchanged. Every 20 rage you spend reduces the cooldown on Recklessness by 1 second. And then Reckless Abandon, this is what I was just kind of demonstrating here and why I said Bloodthirst and Raging Blow change on my action bar. So Recklessness now generates 50 rage and empowers Bloodthirst and Raging Blow. And then I'm just only going to press these 2 abilities. So at a baseline, Bloodthirst hits for 515 and heals for 3% of my maximum health and generates 8 rage. And then Raging Blow hits for 558 and has a 20% chance to reach its cooldown. I'm going to get rid of Cruelty here just to not change the tooltip with that. I'm going to come in, Recklessness. Now we have Crushing Blow. So Crushing Blow hits for 1300 and Bloodbath hits for 1600. So this basically makes Recklessness triple the damage of Bloodthirst and Raging Blow. And like I was saying, combined with Cruelty, you can stack up these sort of damage amps to Raging Blow. And so when you're in these Recklessness windows, you can dump these Raging Blows that are hitting like freight trains, and they have a higher chance of resetting, and they hit 20% harder while you're enraged. This is going to be a really, really bursty playstyle, and I think it's going to be a ton of fun. Siegebreaker is still here, and it's unchanged, but yeah, like I think Reckless Abandon is really going to make those recklessness windows feel really impactful. They already changed the pace of your gameplay, and I think recklessness is a cool cooldown, especially because it's off the GCD. But now that we have these extra buffs to it to change these buttons and make them hit harder, I would say this is kind of like Metamorphosis for Fury Warriors, which is weird to say, but I mean, Metamorphosis doesn't really change Chaos Strike and Blade Dance, but it makes them hit a lot harder, and I think just that ability and like having that impact your damage abilities in a certain way is impactful and it feels fun. So I'm going to show you kind of the build that I've been playing with, which is Fresh Meat, Double Time, Onslaught, Furious Charge, Cruelty, Dragon's Roar, and Reckless Abandon. So I'm going to charge in, get a little bit of Rage first. Actually going to get Enraged first. Recklessness, Dragon's Roar at the same time. And then I'm just dumping these Empower Bloodthirst and Power Raging Blows. And I'm going to kill this target dummy. But it feels so meaty. Crushing Blow is hitting like a truck. Bloodbath is hitting like a truck. And Rampage is still like the star of the show here, obviously. But it's nice. It's like this very, very like bursty cooldown and feels very impactful. Dragon's Roar is about to come up again. And Fury just feels smooth. It feels smooth, especially with Onslaught. It just feels really smooth to play. It doesn't feel like anything you're pressing is a waste of time. And all of these buttons are hitting hard, they're chunking, and you just feel like a warrior. You know, like you're in the fray, you're getting after it. It's awesome. It's a ton of fun. I've really been enjoying it on the PTR. I like it a lot more than the BFA playstyle. But to be honest, I like almost everything in Shadowlands more than BFA, so Liz, you're doing a good job. That's been my thoughts on the Fury Warrior. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. Again, this was not intended to be a guide. This is not telling you how to play Fury Warrior. I'm telling you what talents I think are fun, not the talents that you're going to take and are min-maxing to be the best. Again, this is literally just an assessment of, hey, these are the talent changes. Do they feel fun? Do they feel intuitive? Do they make sense? Again, I stream every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday on Twitch. Link to that is in the description below. I really appreciate you guys for the likes and comments on all of my videos. You guys are amazing, and I will catch you guys in the next one.